Okay, so for this bracelet, you need two separate strands of cord. One of them will be 6 yards, and then you fold that in half, and the other one will be 80 inches, and that's going to be folded in half. And I'll show you here. So what I did was I folded those in half, and I fed each of them through the button to where those were centered. So let's see. Let me clip this in here. And one cool tip, if you have like a button that's about like 12 to 15 millimeters, if you take one of your clips and you just kind of bend the this part up a little bit, it opens wider, so that way you can get your button in. So let me clip this in here, and I'll show you the configuration. So so it'll look like 8 strands because you have 2 folded strands in there. But see here, the short ones, and then these long ones, those are going to be, let me just tuck those aside because those are the ones that we are going to macrame with. And so let's see. And this, don't cut this end because depending on the beads you use, one tip that I have is I do put a leadered needle on here, so that way it's easier to feed all the beads on. So this one's going to be a little bit loose. And if you want to get started, just, you know what, maybe it's a good idea. Just line these up, and then I'm just gonna, you could just like clip this right here, and then just do 4 macrame knots just to secure it, so that way it doesn't keep shifting. So let's do that now. So if you're new to the way I macrame, I always start on the left. So I make like a top, and this one will go on top of that, and then I feed this like underneath. And that side with the fold, it will have a tendency to want to get like stuck on everything. So just be aware of that. So there's a top, and then on the left side, I do it again, but this time I'm feeding the cords on the bottom, see that? And then I'll go over to the left side. So you're always like starting on the left, and whether you do, when you feed it through, it's either going to be under or over. So there's top, bottom, now a top, 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 and then feed this through, and then a bottom. And at least this will get the cords secured on. So let's go. Then I did 4. I did top, bottom, top, bottom. Okay. Okay. So now those are the macrame cords. I'm going to put those aside because now what we need to do is get the beads onto all these short strands. And since one of them is like folded, and it could be a little tricky trying to get those beads on. So what I do is I put a leadered needle on there. And if you are new to the leadered needle, what it is, it's a fishing line. And I like to use either a 4-pound or a 6-pound, nothing thicker, because sometimes, especially if the beads are just going to barely fit on, sometimes the thickness of the fishing line makes a difference. And the needle that I use is a John James, I think it's a 12. And I sell these on our website. So it's a kit. It comes with the fishing line and the needle. So I'm going to attach the needle on here, and I like to do a double, not just like one overhand knot like this. I like to double it because the singles, if you do a single, it's going to slide right off if you pull on it. I'm going to go 1 and 2, and then tighten it. And you don't want this knot, like, see that how it's centered like right on the fold? You want to like offset it, because then sometimes the knot won't go through. You have trouble with the beads going over that knot. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is on the ends that don't have the fold, I'm going to feed my beads on. And having sometimes if you have one strand a little bit longer than the other, it makes it so much easier. It's a little bit like, so there's one. I'm gonna feed 7 on. I think I mean, depending on your wrist size, I think I made this bracelet and I know that I think 7 beads, and these are 8mm, will do the job. But if you're using 6mm beads, of course you're going to need more beads. So I'm just going to get, let's see what I got here. So we're going to get those on. Whoops. And the reason I like to do it this way, because I know that I could like just fold, 2 separate strands on, but this is a lot stronger. Because you got the folds in here, there's no endings, nothing. I mean, nothing is ended till we get to the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to do one more 7. And if you want to just fast forward past this part, that's okay. Oh, no, don't fast forward yet because this next part's really important. Okay, so now what we need to do is feed these cords through these beads here. And so you take your leadered needle, and what you do is you hold the needle on like this, because a lot of times if you feed the try feeding the needle through, it pierces the thread, this thread here, and it's just a mess. It's not fun to have to get it off and take it off, and it always messes it up. So I just hold the needle on that thread, and then I pull it through. Just like that. Keep it centered, and then so that's a tip that I have to get them all on. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to macrame. I'm going to slide it over, and you just do the same thing. The top. Uh-oh. If you have the flip bobbins, which probably, if you're not, oh my goodness, used to this. See, the problem is with that bent end, that folded end, that's where everything gets like stuck. So there's top, bottom. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Let me move this stuff. Let me maybe if let's wrap. Because you could use like the flip bobbins, or you can use just like anything. I'm going to use these guys to wrap the cord in. So let's see if it makes it faster. Because it only in like if you've ever made like a ladder bracelet, you know that those cords just get like stuck in everything. So I'm just gonna, I mean, you can get like a piece of cardboard, or just like anything, just to like gather these cords. Let's see. It should help. Okay. I'm gonna put that in there and just wrap it up. Now this should help a lot. Okay. Okay, so now, so we did a top, now we're gonna do a bottom, and then over. Yeah, you definitely want to use those things. I mean, unless you have like a really clean work surface, which right now I don't, because I have a lot going on. So that's so much easier. Ugh. And the flip bobbins that come with your kit, that's exactly what they're for. So there's top, bottom, and over. Oh, I wish I had done, I don't know. I mean, I teach this, but when I made the first couple of bracelets, I didn't even use this because, I don't know, I should have. Then you just keep going until you get to like around the center, and that's when you'll put your focal on. And the nice thing about getting all those cords inside the bead, it's nice, and it's the holes are like, there's not a lot of space in them, which is ideal for macrame, because otherwise the beads will shift if they're too big. If there's not enough, if there's a lot of extra space. So here's bottom, bottom, and then over the top. And I mean, this is, I mean, if you guys know how to macrame, I mean, this is like pretty like standard, you know, just keep going till you get to wherever. Okay, so there's my center. Uh-oh, I need to do, what am I doing? Now a top, now this is going to be a bottom. Bottom, bottom, over. So what, okay, okay, top, bottom. Okay, now we're not here. That's about right at 3. Perfect for my wrist size. So there's top, excuse me, top and bottom, bottom and over. Okay, now we need to slide our focal on, but these cords will go through the hole in the focal, and then we'll keep macrameing. So we'll have to take these guys off. Okay, now I've got those strung on. And if you're using the small board, you need more space, you could always go at a diagonal. So now we're going to take that leader needle and hold it just like this, and then feed the beads on, just like that. Okay. Perfect. Now we're going to pull this through. And then macrame the rest. Perfect. All right, scoot those down. Just for extra tension, I like to wrap this around the peg. And I'm going to go ahead and macrame these, and I will be right back. But before I get back, you need to feed the macrame cords through the pendant. Okay, so let's get that done. Yeah, I just made this first one just yesterday. I don't know, I was like thinking, and I was like, this sounds like an interesting design. So it's a little more challenging than usual, but it looks really cool. Okay, so now you can start. It's not, trust me, it's not that hard. I mean, I just made it complicated because I had so many like crazy things happen. So now I'm going to do a top and a bottom, and then I'll do the rest of the beads. Uh-oh, see, everything gets, okay, I'm going to wrap those back into those little bobbin things so it doesn't get tangled. Okay, so let me do that. And then I'm just going to macrame the rest of these until I get to the end, and that's where the fun begins. Okay. Okay, so now that we're at this part, now this is where the fun starts. So these 2 cords, we'll split them, okay? So we're going to work one at a time. And since this is pretty like heavy, let's see, what do we do here? So we're going to work. Actually, you know what I was thinking? I don't think it matters if on the that's what I say now. But I think on the one that you do the macrame with, I don't think it matters if you cut it. I'm going to cut it. I don't think it's, I think you can. Oh no. Okay, at this point, actually, I cut the wrong one, but it doesn't matter because the beads are, the holes are big enough that, I mean, trying to use the leader needle would be overkill. So let me go grab the beads. All right, so here we are. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna work one side and then the other. So I'm gonna let me string a few beads on. Let me these see the hole's big enough, so that's not a I'm not overly concerned with having that leadered needle on there. I think we're finished with them. 3 and then 4. Okay, now let me put 4 on here and then I'll show you. Okay, so I did a top and a bottom, and let me get some tension on here. You might want to use the big board for this at this point because you will need some like extra holding power. Okay, so I'm going to put these two aside. So once you like do your last 2 macrames, okay, so you're going to take the cord that you did your macrame with. That's why it's so, so long, because we do the macrame and the half hitch. So let's and this is not going to go back on the bobbin because it won't work. So let me fix the focus. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so now with the right side, because we're going to do this one later. Okay, let me see if I make sure that, because we want the chords. Okay, P. Okay, so this side will be a P knot and this side will be a number 4 knot. Okay, so let me just put those aside and you'll see in a second. Okay, so what I like to do is do uh, a like a this is like a half hitch. So there's the P and then you go through and then just make it nice and tight. So that was, did I do a bottom? Okay, and now we're gonna do the P but on top. Bottom, top, bottom, and then top. We just want a couple of, some space, a little bit of space in here. And then you slide a bead down and then you do a bottom and then a top. So there's bottom. And you want to make sure that they're nice and kind of like squished in. So there's a bottom. Oh my goodness. Let me move some of this stuff. Bottom, top, and then bottom, top. And when you slide the next bead down, kind of like boom, 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 just because you don't want it to be like gappy. So here's bottom, top, and bottom and top. And if you prefer, if you want more spaces, you could do bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top. Did I do 2 there or 4? I think I did that. Okay, so whoops. See, okay, if that happens, just kind of loosen it up because that is not good. That's like oh, you got to pay attention, and sometimes I don't. Let's just get that one nice and snug. Top. And then bottom. And then top. And then you just keep on going till you get what I would do is try it on your wrist and make it like an inch shorter, about an inch shorter, because for the end part we will need like that extra cord. So you do that. So this right side will be like a P, and then this side, when you get to this side, it's going to be like a number 4. So let's move these aside here and get some beads strung on here. I'm just going to do like 2, and then I'll come back with excuse me, everything done, and then I'll show you how to finish the end part. Okay, so Okay, so that one was a P. Now this side's gonna be like a number 4. So get this off. Okay, so see, so that side was like this. Now this side's gonna be like that. So let's do the first 4. So bottom, nice and snug. Bottom, top, bottom, and snug, snug, and then top. Then you slide a bead down, and you just like, oh yeah, bottom. It's bottom, bottom. So bottom. And it's important that you do like a P on one side and a 4. Did I do something wrong there? Did I not squish this up enough? Okay, there we go. Because you don't want this cord, because if you do 2 P's, this cord will be on this side. Or vice versa, if you do 2 4s, then the cords will be on the other side. So you want to just make sure that they're opposite. So that's top bottom, top bottom. I think you get what I'm going at. So you just basically just boom, 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 keep going till, like I said, when I get to the length that I need, I'll put it on my wrist and I'll show you basically what you're looking for. Because on this bracelet, since we're going to be folding a couple of cords over, you need at least a gap about like this, and then we're going to add the ring and then the closure part. So let me just keep going here. Oh, just a tip: if you're using the small board, you actually don't need the big board. Once you start doing your half hitch knots, just clip your bracelet right at that little juncture where we started the half hitches, and then you have space on your board to finish the rest of it. So just an FYI. Okay, so once you finish, just do a top and a bottom on each side. Don't do 4. Okay, so now on these, the 2 strands that we strung the beads on, we are going to feed these through a ring. And, let me show you like around the okay, so I'm gonna put this on. I'm gonna hold this and I'm gonna wrap it around. And see the spacing, you want a gap of about an inch or so. Because remember, we still need the jump ring and then the button and all that good stuff. So I ended up, I've got a 6-inch wrist, so I ended up using a 16 of these on each side. And it just seemed to do the job perfectly. Okay, so let's turn this way. And we're going to feed these cords into a ring. Just make sure that these guys here are lined up. Just like that. And you want about, I don't know, let me see what I did here. This is probably a little over, probably about maybe 3/4 of an inch. Because we want this part to be really secure. So if you do a macrame on just a little teeny weeny part, it's not going to hold very well. So just about like that. Then you're going to fold it and just make sure that they don't get out of alignment. So we're going to fold all these cords like over. Let me just fold them, make sure everything's secure. And now I'm going to flip this part in, and I'm going to leave these parts out. And now I'm going to take a clip. I'm going to clip this part, and I think I'm just going to like leave that part alone. Okay, so you got to come in here, and with your long cords that we use to do the macrame with, if you feel more comfortable like having this thing up, which probably isn't a bad idea, maybe you can get like a couple of spools of cord, just like that works. That works. Okay, so now with these guys, whoops, let's go over here. Now with these guys, what we're going to do is we're going to macrame back towards the ring. So everything's folded in. And now we start our macrame. You want to do it nice and tight. Just real nice and snug. So there's a top and then bottom. And you just keep doing this until you get up to the ring. So there's top, bottom. And the ring that I'm using is an 8mm. But you know, you can use a smaller one or a bigger one if you want. Okay, that's perfect. Just like that. See that? Okay. Now we need to trim these guys here and then melt them. Let me turn my fan off because I don't want the flames to go flying everywhere. So I'm going to trim, and then grab a lighter. Why do I not have a lighter? Let me grab a lighter. 1 second. Okay, so now you want to come in and melt this into a ball. Just let it cool just for a second and then tap it down. And then you do the same thing to the other side. So let's just take this off. And on this one here, I do like to melt it a little bit because having that extra ball in there, it helps reinforce it. So this one you just got to be a little careful. So let's get that like sticking out and then just come in here and just have everything like folded away from the flame. Just barely, and then just kind of like tap it. And then you should have something that looks just like this. Now the last thing we need to do is put the button a loop. So let's do that next. So the last thing we need to do is attach this part, which is going to be the closure for the button. So what I did is I took, I'm using a 1.2mm faux leather. I got 14 inches, and I am going to feed that into the loop like this. Then I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to offset it by 5 inches. So I'll show you that again. So you line them up and then you just drag out to where, you know, it's a 5-inch difference. And the reason is because the knot, actually, I'm going to do a double knot, so I'm going to do 4 inches. I'm not going to be doing a triple. Okay. So now when you clip this into the clip, you want the long side on top. And I'm going to be making a double moose knot. So there's 1, and see, you could tell just from the number of loops. So now that I see there's 2 loops, now I take the peg out and I feed this end right through the loops. And then I slide it up. So it looks like that. I don't know, for some reason I just don't like having a bunch of like loops right there. But if you want 3, that's fine. And the reason I make this extra long is because we need to make a coil knot and you need extra cord. Because you have to do your melting, and if you get it on the cord that needs to be part of the bracelet, then it's going to make like these weird kinks. So I'm going to take 5 inches of the, maybe I'm going to do 6 inches of the faux leather. And normally I would like size down, but for this particular bracelet, I'm going to use the same size for the coil knot. So this coil knot is going to be 4 wraps. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to wrap it, put my finger underneath, kind of push up to like keep the knot from coming apart and take the peg out. And then this side will go in this way, and then the other side will go in the other way. See if we can get that. And if you have trouble, that's what these needles are for. So you could just put a needle in there. Feed this into the needle a tad. Just like that. And then just pull it through. Okay, so now this is really important. On these ends, just mark them off so you don't accidentally cut off the wrong cord. So I'm just going to put a clip on there just to let me know that those are not going to get cut off. So you want to come in here and tighten it. And then slide this all the way down. Not all the way down, but just far enough down. And the reason like I mentioned, we need to make these little melt spots, and you don't want it to be on any part that's going to be like on the bracelet, because sometimes when you make the melt spot, it melts this cord too. So this is just like insurance. So we come in here and cut it at about, I think it's about a little over 1/8 of an inch. Then I just kind of fluff it out, and then I take my lighter and melt it into a ball. And this one you don't want to tap down, because I've done that by accident and I didn't think it would make a difference, but it does. Because sometimes the sharp edges will like cut the cord. So just let that cool, and then come in here and do the other one. I'm just going to trim this, fluff it. Let's get that in focus. Just let it cool completely. Okay, now, and you know, you might say, oh, there are gaps in there, but once you like slide the knot up and down a couple of times, the gaps go away. And see how this part got like melted, but it doesn't matter because we are going to cut it off anyway. So I'm going to put it on and just see how long I need to make this so that I can get it on and off comfortably. And I think I'll make it a little bit shorter. Actually, let me run it back and forth a couple of times so that way those gaps will go away. Okay, see that? Just kind of, okay. All right, now let me put it on. Wrap it around. Is that comfortable to get it buttoned? Yes. Okay, so now the last thing we need to do are like the stop knots and then put some cute little dangly beads on the end. And the stop knots are easy. They are just regular overhand knots. So I'd like to use a peg just to kind of slide it up, tighten, and then do the same thing on this side. Just a regular overhand knot. And slide it down and tighten. And I like putting like dangles, and these beads just happen to be just perfect. Just kind of tighten it. And once again, you make an overhand knot and slide it down as much as you can. Okay, things are looking good. All right. Now the last thing is you just come in and cut these guys, and then you melt those. And when I do these, I usually just I tap those down so that they don't have these weird balls like sticking out. See that? Actually, I should have fluffed it. I think that fluffing it just makes it, probably makes no difference to tell you the truth, but it's just something I just have a habit of doing. Okay, so there, I think we are finished. Let's try it on. Let me get this out of the way. Let me clean off this surface so we can try on our bracelet. Okay. I'm gonna hold the button here, make sure everything's straight. Come around, wrap. Put the button on there and then slide it closed. Isn't that cool? Isn't that like the coolest closure? Oh, I love it. And then that's it. Finished. Perfect. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.